Hello. Yeah, normally I'm not focused on tech videos, but I am a PC enthusiast. Um, Although, whenever, our favorite tech YouTubers build their PCs, they usually have their own go-to thermal paste. I believe Jay's 2 cents loves Kingpin. Linus would either go with MX, an Arctic MX4 or the Noctua. But then there's also Gamers Nexus with Thermal Grizzly. And of course, we have our big brand, Corsair, and the generic thermal paste. So, now my question is, we do know that thermal paste quality has effects on a cooling system, but do all of these thermal pastes actually have noticeable differences between them? Well, welcome to a new series of videos called Collector's Curiosities. Let's begin. Alright, before I explain the test methodology further, I figured I'd go over the parts. First up is a motherboard. We're using an Asus Maximus 13 Hero, just because it's easy to use, easy to navigate the BIOS and overclock. Next up, we are using the 10th gen Core i9 10900KF, pretty good 10 core processor, 20 threads, easy to overclock, and of course generates a lot of heat. Next up is going to be our CPU cooling solution. For this, I decided to go with the Noctua Nth1. It is the all-around one of the, if not the best, air cooling solutions around, and it gives our CPU the best chances on this test. For our memory, I am using the Viper Gaming by Patriot, 16 gigs DDR4, 4400 megahertz. I don't know what the CL on this is. And finally, for our output, I am using a 3070, the Asus X Noctua 3070 variant. Essentially, I just need a display out, and this is the only video card I have available. With that out of the way, let's explain the test methodology and the parameters I'm testing with. Before we proceed with our test results, let's walk through our test parameters. First, fans are set to 100%, so that means both our CPU fans will be running at 100% the whole time the system is up. Next is we unlock the power limits, but we did set a boost limit to 5.1 gigahertz. Next up, the room temperature is set to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 23.89 Celsius. And finally, we are going to be measuring the max temperature between 3 Cinebench R23 runs, as well as we are going to be taking the average temperatures within those 3 runs as well. So with that out of the way, let's see what the results are. Disclaimer, this is not like the end-all be-all of a scientific testing.
pretty much this is done to satisfy my curiosity, as well as nothing is pretty much the only control that I have here on this test is pretty much the temperature as well as the hardware that I use. Otherwise, I can't do an exact scientific test on this, but this is pretty much real world testing, I would say. With that out of the way, let's see what the results are. So now let's see the results on the tests, starting from the best to the worst performer. Alright, first up on our list is the Kingpin Cooling Kpx. With a price per gram of $6.20, it actually is the best performer out of the batch. As you can see on the charts, our max temps never reached 97. We pretty much juggled around 96, 95, and our average temperatures are around 83, 86. It's definitely, when performing your next maintenance, I would recommend using this thermal paste. Alright, for second place, it's the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. Price per gram at a whopping $11.99. Performance-wise, it actually does trade blows with the Kingpin Cooling Kpx. As you can see on the charts, we reached about around 95, 97 degrees Celsius, and our average runs between the three is around 85 degrees, 86. So again, performance wise, it's great, but the price, it's a little hard to recommend at that. I would always go to Kingpin Cooling if you're looking for something really performant, just because of the price. If this is a lot cheaper than the Kingpin Cooling, even though it's the difference between the two when it comes to performance is not that wide, yeah, that's pretty much the tiebreaker. Alright, on to our next one. Alright, third place on our list is the Arctic MX4. Price per gram at around $2.50. I would say this is usually my go-to for my personal rig when I have to do maintenance. Though with this current test that I did, I might change it up to Kingpin Cooling on my next maintenance. The pricing on this is pretty competitive versus our next contender, and the performance is not bad, topping the temp at around 98 degrees Celsius, and our average temps between the three is around 85, so I'd say it's passable. Alright, let's go to our next one. Alright, next up on our list is actually Noctua Nth1. Price per gram at around $2.55. I'd say it actually does trade blows with the MX4. As you can see, the temp usually tops out around 98 degrees Celsius, with an average temp is around 86 on each run, 86, 87. I'd say it sufficiently does trade blows with the MX4, and if I were to recommend either of the two, I would say look which one's on sale. Alright, on to the surprising next one. Alright, the fifth place is actually a surprise. I had to retest it twice just to make sure, but yeah, it's the generic thermal paste. Price per gram at around $0 just because it usually does come with your cooler. As you can see, the thermal performance is not that great, we're pretty much topping out at 99 degrees Celsius. Average temps are not that bad, 85, 86, 87. It's not too bad, but yeah, that 99 kind of worries me. But again, if you literally have no budget for thermal paste, it'll do. It'll do in a pinch. And for our last place, oh boy, I did not expect this to be at last place, to be honest. It's the Corsair XTM50, priced at around $2.99. It's actually the worst performer of the bunch. It's the only one that thermal throttled with all 3 runs. I actually had to retest this more than 2 times just to confirm the result. But yeah, it's always thermal throttling with this particular thermal paste. I don't know why. I'm already using a DH15. Again, the average temps is not too bad, 86, 86, 87. But topping out at 100 and then thermal throttling at that, yeah, this one is a hard recommend, especially with the price. Alright, that is it for today's Collector's Curiosities. Thank you for letting me indulge on these experiments. If you want, please subscribe to the channel for more unboxings. Maybe we can get more experiments done in the future, but it's mostly going to be unboxings. Well, for now, see ya!